all right. Jai Hind. Good morning, everybody. Respected Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karad, Mr. Rahul Karad, Professor S.N. Pathan, Colonel Vilas, members of the faculty, and my dear students. I feel it's a great honor that I have been invited to a prestigious institution like MIT, about which I have been only hearing so far. And today I have the privilege of standing in your college. Thank you very much for affording me this opportunity. At the very outset, let me clarify that I am no authority to speak on Islam. Having been to a convent school all through my schooling, and to Allahabad University and Madras University and Osmania University, where I learned everything except Islam. But whatever I am going to speak about is what I have seen, felt, heard from my friends, from my relatives, from my elders. And out of that experience that I am going to speak to you about things which have a very wrong notion about Islam. And I thought that who else can rectify that except a soldier of the Indian Army? I have been from the Kumaon Regiment, the same regiment where Dr. Vilas, Colonel Vilas was also there. He was much senior to me. But I had the honor of being commissioned into the 15th Battalion of Kumaon Regiment. I have seen all wars which the regiment has fought post-1971 war. I have fought the Kargil war. I have fought the Sri Lankan operation as part of the IPKF. So I am anything but a cleric to speak on religion. But I shall be also cheating myself if I say that I know nothing of Islam. In all these years of my life, I have only been observing, reading, and writing. And mostly since I went to Aligarh Muslim University, I got a lot of clarifications. You must be wondering what an infantryman was doing in a huge university like Aligarh Muslim University. That's also, I have not understood till date why I was sent there, why the government sent me there. But when I left the university, the AMU became #1 university in India, as per the Q3 ranking. Now, coming back to the topic, a notion has been created where the image of a Muslim is that of a bearded man putting on a skull cap, and he is anything but carrying a Stinger missile on his shoulders or wearing that Pathani dress and about to launch an attack on somebody. This is the general notion prevailing overall. The TV news, the media news, it's full of words like mullah, mujahideen, Taliban, kafir, sharia, and things like that. You must be sick of hearing these words. Have you ever pondered what are these meaning? What does it stand for? I stand before you today to clarify some of these things which I have read, which I have understood, and how it should be correctly interpreted and how it came about. Ladies and gentlemen, most of my community members were ignorant and continue to be ignorant about the teachings of Islam. And this is the ignorance which the rest of the community is paying the price for. Muslim nations are suffering most, you will agree with me, Muslim nations are suffering most at the hands of terrorism. There is hardly a Friday which goes without bombing in a mosque in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Syria, and these countries. You have been hearing and reading about it. Terrorism has taken a violent form, and somehow it got linked with the religion per se, which shouldn't have been. But unfortunately, that is the truth of life. Therefore, to understand what is Islam, I shall start about the first and the foremost document of Islam, and that is the Holy Quran. Unless we know what contains in Holy Quran, we will always go wrong in our interpretations of what Quran is about. Holy Quran is nothing but it was a book revealed by God to the Prophet Muhammad. It is, in other words, Islamic jurisprudence. It is a way of guiding a Muslim how to lead his life. The next in importance to Holy Quran are the Shariat and the Sunnah. The Sunnah or Sunnat as they call it in India are those things which the Prophet himself practiced. So any good Muslim feels that whatever Prophet did, if I can do it, it's a good thing. That is Sunnah. And the Sharia came as a result of what the laws were molded and designed for a Muslim to follow those laws. It came by words of mouth from the Prophet. It came through Quran, which is the main jurisprudence, but a combination of what the Prophet said and what the Quran contained resulted in the creation of Sharia. Now the Quran contains two types of verses. One is called the Mutashabihat and the other is called Muhkamat. Muhkamat is like a direction. It cannot be changed. God wants it to be done like that, do it like that. But where the doubt arises is the Mutashabihat. Mutashabihat was free to interpretation, and people started interpreting the way they understood. No two people see this thing in the same light. You will agree with me. And the best way is the communication. When I communicate with you, when you narrate my communication to somebody else, you may narrate something else. And that is what has happened to the ayats which are known as Mutashabihat, that they are different interpretations of the same ayat. And that is where the conflict and the disagreement started. Wherever the God has given clear-cut direction, there is no disagreement on that. Now, what is Sharia? Sharia was designed as a law which will be prevalent on everybody, irrespective of whether you are head of state, whether you are the king, or whether you are an ordinary man. It is, in Arabic, if it is translated in English, it is called the way, the path. Sharia shows you the path of a good living. It was developed so that the Muslims can follow this as the guiding principles of their lifestyle. But unfortunately, it did not happen. Certain kings, certain rulers got themselves exempted from Sharia. The latest, which you must have read about few days back, when a certain crown prince has got himself exempted out of a murder charge. This was not the purpose of Sharia. So please remember that Sharia, the first cardinal principle of Sharia was that it will be applied toto with everybody, wherever you are, whatever you are, irrespective of your status or dignity. Now, in the light of Sharia, certain Muslim ulema, as we call them, or thinkers, started passing fatwas. You must be hearing this word, fatwa aaya hai, fatwa aaya hai. What happened is that they interpreted the Sharia and they gave sometimes correct fatwa, sometimes wrong fatwa also. And it is the wrong fatwa which has damaged the image of Islam most. It should not have come, but just because that man thought that it is like this, he interpreted it like that. Then a very frequent word, fundamentalist, you must be reading. This came up in the light of all the events that happened in the West and also in India. People started linking Islam with fundamentalism. Far from it. Islam, by definition, means a religion of peace. Islam in Arabic means peace. And that is what the seminar we are organizing here for. We want a universal peace. You want a universal peace. And that is why the Islam word was coined by the Prophet. Those who described the followers of Islam as fundamentalists are absolutely wrong. I cannot call myself as a fundamentalist, nor can I call anybody who has got a beard as a fundamentalist. Fundamentals of Islam are based on peace. Now, some of the questions which must be haunting your mind is, was Islam spread by force? This is a very frequent subject which people talk about. Or is Islam a religion of coercion, or is it compatible with the modern life? Can we practice this religion in the wake of modernism also? These are the questions which haunt anybody's mind, including mine. But let me answer your first question, that Islam was never spread by force or coercion. This is contrary to what has been written or made to believe, that Islam was spread through the sword. If it was so, in the Prophet's own lifetime, when he did the last Hajj, 100,000 people attended that Hajj. If he had forced people in his little lifetime, why would 100,000 people join him to circumnavigate around the Kaaba? Muslims have ruled India, as you know, for nearly 650 years. If it was forced, then India would not have seen 80% non-Muslims today. The religion was never forced. Muslims constitute over 2 billion in the world out of 8 billion population. Only 22% of Muslims are Arabs. Rest are all spread. 30% live in America and Europe. Did you hear ever that somebody was killed for not embracing Islam? It is only those fanatics, few fanatics like Taliban or their followers, who created that image that it was spread by force. You see, why do we all go to mazars today? We all believe in mazars. It's because those peers, those saints, practiced peace, they practiced brotherhood, they practiced love. If they were the real followers of Islam, as per this definition, they would not have been worshipped as they are being worshipped even today. You know how Islam came to Jammu and Kashmir. It was through the northwestern, Samarkand and all those holy people who came and settled there. People embraced there. No wars were fought in Jammu and Kashmir. Same was in many other places. Hyderabad, when it was annexed with the Indian state, had only 12% population of Muslims, though ruled by Muslims. The point I am trying to drive is that Islam was never forced upon any community. It was, why people change their religion, to my mind, is basically when they see some charm in that religion. Firstly, they are attracted towards the religion, or there is some enticement. One of the two happens, and that is how they convert their religion. But in case of Islam, whoever embraced, he saw some charm, some dignity, some code of conduct, and that's why he embraced Islam. When Islam came in Kerala, it came in the lifetime of Prophet Muhammad himself, 13th century. When Islam had not come through North India, Islam was already in Kerala. Indian first mosque in Kerala is older than the Mughal Empire. So, how did it happen? Because people had business, people had trade, people found these chaps good people, so they said, all right, we embrace your religion. Muhammad bin Qasim, the most derided person, he was invited to come to India by the Indians. Babur was invited to come to India by the Indians. They saw the Indian wealth, they saw the India as a good country to hunt for, and they came. So it was not the purpose of Islam to spread sword or by sword. Now, there are certain things which have no answers, and I don't have any answers. For example, in many Arab countries, there is genital mutilation, female genital mutilation. It has nothing to do with Islam. It has nothing to do with Quran. There is no mention of it in Quran. Why it is happening? It was happening in the times of Jews also, Christians also, and much earlier also. So the tradition has been continuing. What was a tradition has now been given a color of a religion. It has been connected to a religion. Similarly, stoning adulterers, Islam has not sanctioned. There is no mention of stoning to death a person who has committed adultery. Similarly, blasphemy laws, which is there in Pakistan, that a man or even a woman has been sentenced to death for blasphemy laws. It is not sanctioned by Quran. Forgiveness is the hallmark of the Prophet. he always used to forget those who had trespassed against him. How could he order somebody to be stoned to death? One should not subscribe to what is happening in the name of salvaging the Prophet's image and reputation. He never ordained death to anybody who curses him or anybody who says wrong things about him. Then what is Islamism? Islamism is a political movement born out of exigency of situation. A situation was created, people wanted to fight that situation, and that gave birth to Islamism. It has no theology involved, none whatsoever. Islamism does not take its roots from the Quran. See what happened to the many governments in Middle East in the name of Islamism. Take, for example, Tunisia, Egypt, Algeria. All these legal governments were uprooted by the so-called Islamists. These people masquerade as the upholders of this flag of Islam. Far from it. Islamism has killed more Muslims than anybody else, than even the Crusades. It is the Islamism which has given rise to Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Taliban, and so many other organizations. They have together killed many, many thousands of Muslims. See what is happening every day in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Syria, and several other Muslim countries. But this does not mean that it is part of Islam. It means that Islamism gave rise to jihadism. And a very wrong interpretation of jihad came about when somebody called for Islamism. Jihad, what you hear and see about it, is not the thing which I will talk about it later. One of the things which I wanted to share with you is the compassion in Islam. The opening verse of any surah of Islam starts with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It says, God, in the name of God, the most munificent, the most beneficent. It is a mercy spirit of God that is invoked in every surah. Before you pray any prayer, you start with this. So you understand that the compassion feeling, God himself has ordained, and he wants his followers to follow that. This verse has come about 113 times in Quran. There are 114 surah in Quran. 113 times it starts with, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. The central theme of Quran is compassion. अगर किसी के साथ आप मोहब्बत दिखा सकते हैं, प्लीज़ दिखाइए उसको. अगर किसी के साथ रहम कर सकते हैं, तो करिए. God never forbids not to exonerate a guilty person. God never stops from giving forgiveness to a person who has committed a crime. Compassion is the heart of every religion. It is the heart of Hinduism, it is the heart of Islam, it is the heart of Christianity. Every religion preaches compassion. One beautiful thing which Islam practices is zakat. Sadqa, zakat. You must have heard this word, zakat. Every Muslim who has the wherewithal and the monetary resources must give away a certain percentage of his income to the poor and the needy as a form of zakat. This is a wonderful form of compassion in Islam. I want to share my richness with my poor colleague. And it is not forbidding that you will not give to X, Y, Z. You can give to anybody whom you deem as a poor person. Muslims would be aware of the story of a woman who used to throw garbage on the head of the Prophet while he used to pass through her house for going for prayers. Every day she used to throw heaps of garbage on his head. One day that woman did not throw. The Prophet became anxious to know, where is that woman? Today she did not throw the garbage. And he went to her house to inquire, why didn't you throw the woman? Her relatives told that she is not well. The Prophet sat down there and he prayed for her well-being. That is compassion. There is a famous story of Hind. Hind was the woman who tore apart the chest of his cousin, Hamza, Prophet's cousin, and she took out the liver of Hazrat Hamza and she bit that liver. Such cruelty in one of the battles. Prophet condoned her also. He said, you were angry, you were annoyed, you did this to my cousin, doesn't matter. Let's carry on. This happened in the Battle of Uhud. Similarly, when the mosque in Medina was inaugurated, the first person to be called upon by the Prophet to give azan was a black man, a Negro, Hazrat Bilal. He could have called any of his tribes, Quraysh or such tribes, but he called Hazrat Bilal. He said, I give you this privilege to give the first azan from the minaret. He was an African slave. He became the muezzin of that mosque. Look at his own example. The Prophet married a widow who was elder to him in age, his first wife. That lady, he allowed him to do trade, commerce, deposit her own money, do her own business. When I tell this to my Muslim colleagues, they look at my face because I don't find many Muslim women doing business. She used to do business on dates. You might have read about her. This is the Prophet which gave freedom to a woman, and that to his own wife, to do business as you feel like. The Prophet loved animals. One day, a cat was sleeping on his arm, and it was time for prayer. The Prophet had to go for prayer. He didn't want to wake up the cat or disturb, so he cut his sleeve of the arm, and he allowed the cat to continue sleeping, and he slowly pulled his arm and went for prayer. Similarly, he prayed for the woman who was very beastly with animals. She used to beat the dogs and all that. When she was sick, the Prophet prayed for her. The idea is that compassion has been central to Islam, not the other way around. Now, what is the significance of peace in Islam? Quran contains 6,666 verses. Out of this, 40 verses only talk about wars or fighting. The rest all are preaching peace, peace, and peace. The Quran says in Surah Al-Nisa, verse 171, do not go excess in your religion. ज़्यादती मत करो. किसी के साथ जुल्म और ज़्यादती मत करो. This is from Surah Al-Nisa. God has said, the Prophet himself said, no extremism, that is in Arabic called ghulu, with those who are adversaries. Do not indulge in extremism. No ghulu. And he also exhorted that do not commit excess which those whom you are fighting with or those who are weaker than you. I'll give you a very beautiful ayat of the Quran which says, if someone kills another person, unless it be for murder, it would be as if he has murdered the entire mankind. This is from Surah Al-Madina of the Quran, verse number 32. Killing somebody in whatever name that you can call it is not allowed in Islam. Permission to fight has been given in Quran to those who have been wronged. ये नहीं था कि साहब उसने तो कुछ नहीं किया था, हमने इसके ऊपर अटैक कर दिया. If you have been wrong, God has allowed that permission. All right, you can also fight back with him. Please also understand that Quran says that if somebody holds an olive branch in front of you and wants peace with you, don't reject that offer. Go in for peace. And this is contained in Surah Al-Anfal, verse number 61. There were 3 battles fought during the lifetime of Prophet. One was Battle of Badr, the other was Battle of Uhud, and the third was Battle of Trench. All the 3 were defensive battles. None of them were aggressive battles. The Prophet and his followers were defending themselves against the onslaught of the Quraysh who had come from Makkah. You have to realize this, that did the Prophet lead into an offense? I am an army man. I have participated in a number of attacks and defense both. I know what is offensive battle, what is a defensive battle. All the three battles were fought in defense. I have been told by my friends that there is a ayat in Quran which says, kill the mushrikeen. That is, those who are non-believers, kill them. It is true, it is in Surah Tawbah, but you have to understand in what context did God say that. It is after that battle, he said, if you see these mushrikeen, you may kill them, unless they pray with you or unless this is a part of the stratagem of war. This cannot be seen as a command for all times to come. It is not a command for all times to come. It was in the light of that battle, when the adversary was fleeing away, that this ayat came to the Prophet. And after that, it was stopped. So it should not be construed that it has got a blanket sanction to kill anybody whom I feel like. I will not touch upon jihad. I hope I am not taking much of your time. Now, jihad is one word which is very often misunderstood. The literal meaning of jihad is struggle. In Arabic, if you translate into Urdu or English, it means to struggle. I struggle in the name of God. I struggle for intellectual gain. I struggle for spiritual, social, economic, political, and it's sometimes physical. That is the purpose of a jihad. This is an important Islamic tenet which has been misrepresented, misused, and put to wrong interpretations by many of us. The jihad appears in Quran 40 times. But God, in the same vein, in the same ayat says, refrain from fighting. What does He want? 40 verses, 70 times God has said, refrain from fighting. The narrative of jihad changed after Afghanistan. I wonder if you know that how the Americans published literature and other booklets and all, which was published in US and distributed in Afghanistan to the madrasa students to read, follow and practice it. The culture of jihad changed thereafter. It was to wage a war. It was not so. If Afghanistan was occupied by Russia, it was again for territorial gains, to gain access to the warm sea water, and it was nothing beyond that. But some other power also jumped in and they said Islam is in danger. Islam khatre mein hai. And then they exhorted people to fight against the Americans. Jihad cannot be a war seen as an aggression. It is not a war for territorial gain. It cannot be ordered by one individual like Mullah Umar. It has to be a collective decision. Unless the whole Qawm stands up, yes, we will fight a jihad, one individual cannot fight a jihad. Jihad cannot be declared by anybody on anybody. Please understand that. The mission of jihad should be to get this world rid of diseases, hunger, illiteracy, poverty, addictions, and so on. It is not to capture land. It is not to kill people. That is not the mission. And violence is definitely not part of jihad. I can gainsay that. It is not part of jihad. So if anybody says that I am in a jihad and I am fighting, no sir. Jihad does not sanction you this violence. Another very interesting term you must have come across, and I find very many of my non-Muslim friends objecting to it, and they have right in their objection, is the word called kafir. How many times have you heard this kafir? Now, let me tell you, kafir has been derived from an Arabic word called kufr. Kufr, which means something which is to use to cover or conceal. I put a coat on my face. I am also doing kufr because I want to conceal my face. I want a blanket on my face. It is also kufr. And from kufr, the word came about kafir. Night is referred to as kafir in Arabic very many times. Many people write night as kafir because it is concealing light. It is concealing light. Thick clouds are also known as kafir. Isn't it interesting to know that even thick clouds are called as kafirs? Kafir in religious terminology means the person who denies, rejects, or refuses. Denies, reject, or refuses. So, if I believe in certain God, you don't believe, I'll call you kafir, and you believe in certain God, I don't believe, you call me kafir. You can call me kafir. It is not exclusive to any community. If a capitalist is there, he will call a communist as a kafir. A communist will be called as kafir. Understood? So please see the use of that word. The third thing which Muslims are notoriously famous is for producing children. Again, this polygamy thing is also being spread quite a bit. Actually, there's a lot of agenda, but not reality in that. I'll quote you a beautiful verse from Surah Nisa of Quran, which will tell you what does Allah want. Allah has permitted 4 wives to Muslims. And why 4 wives? Because Islam at that stage was a growing religion. Allah wanted more population. So therefore He allowed 4 wives. But in the same surah, He says, and I'm reading out blanket from that, you shall never be able to be fair and just as between women, even if it is your ardent desire. आप बराबर से 2 औरतों को एक नज़र से नहीं देख सकते. This is the truth of life. God says, if you can abstain from 4 marriages, please do so. Please do so. This is in verse number 129. So 4 marriage does not give you liberty to every Muslim to marry 4 times. God Himself cautions you that there will be problem. And you see any household where there are more than 1 wife, how many problems are there? So it is not in the interest of Islam or anybody else. The correlation between polygamy and demography is also very strange. As per 1981 census, there was for every 1,000 Muslim females, there was 1,068 males. 1,068 males, 1,000 females. Now, if every Muslim is going to marry 4, how is this possible? Can it happen? 68 males will go without a wife. Am I right or wrong? So how can anybody marry 4 women, and yet it cannot be believed that in a Muslim household for every 1 man there are 4 women. It is not so. A research was carried out in Pune by a lady called Radhika Mistry of Gokhale Institute. She came to the conclusion that the percentage of polygamous marriage amongst Muslims is larger than other religions. There is no evidence. She said there is no evidence of a percentage of Muslims marrying more than non-Muslims. And if you truthfully examine any news or any paper, you'll find everybody is into bigamy or polygamy. It is not confined to Islam only. And in the context of today, it has gone down drastically. Same is with the total fertility ratio. The total fertility ratio of Muslim women has considerably declined in the last 2 decades. It has been a sharpest decline of 0.8 percentage points. That means to say that the Muslims have also adopted contraceptives, other family planning measures, and that is why their percentage of growth is also going down. So don't ever get into that propaganda that the population of Muslims will ever exceed other communities. It will not, sir. The total TFR of the Hindus was 2.6 in 2005 and 6, and it has dropped by 0.5 points. This is a research carried out by Dr. Amitabh Kundu. He is a very famous sociologist, and he says that the fall is steep amongst Muslims nowadays as far as population growth is concerned. Another very touchy point which I hear my friends talking is that Islam does not recognize women as equal. And I am so glad that so many ladies are listening to me. Please listen to this, what I am going to tell you. Surah Baqarah of Quran says, and women are for rights over men similar to those men over women. औरत और मर्द के हुकूक में कोई फर्क नहीं है. God does not allow any difference. As I told you, Prophet allowed his wife to do business. Islam permitted share of women in their family property. For every one share that I get in my father's land, my sister gets half of it. Why half? Because she will get from her husband also. The Islam gave status to the Muslim, the inheritance laws, that you are equal to him. Do you know that no woman can be forcefully married off in Islam? Consent of that woman has to be there in front of witnesses that yes, I want to marry this man. And if she refuses, and she is free to refuse, then the marriage cannot take place. Do you know that in Islam, when a woman marries, she need not change her maiden name? My wife, before she became, marriage was Azim, she continues to remain Azim even today. No need of changing to Ali. No need of changing the surname. A woman in Islam has got the power of divorce. She can kick out the husband. I don't want you as my husband. It is prescribed in the Quran, in Surah Al-Nisa. And you might have heard occasions where a woman divorced her husband. She can also disallow polygamy. If I go, and mind you, before I get indulged in polygamy, I have to take permission of my first wife. And if my first wife says, no, I do not allow you, my marriage is illegal to the second wife. A woman can disallow polygamy. Ladies and gentlemen, with all these safeguards, I feel that it is a case of Islam versus the Muslims. It is how the Muslims are interpreting their own things for their own selfish end. Islam has not sanctioned that. It is the Muslims who make their ends interpret the way they feel like. I don't know how much time I have. I wanted to cover on science and technology, but I will come on to certain threads which bind Hindus and Muslims. It's very important in the wake of modern times. We celebrate Holi. Every year, I color up my shirt and my trouser with multicolors, hues of colors. My friends come to my house, they pour colors on me. And it is not I who started it. It started way back in the times of Mughals. It started from Akbar, went on to Akbar, from Bahadur Shah Zafar, and went on, Akbar to Bahadur Shah Zafar. All Mughal kings used to play Holi, and it was known as Gulabi Holi. Those days it was referred to as Gulabi Holi. In the state to which I belong, Uttar Pradesh, there used to be holy revelry for weeks together. And the people who used to compose that songs were like Mir Taqi Mir, Asifud Dawla, who was Nawab of Awadh, Hazrat Nizamuddin, the famous saint whose grave is in Delhi. He used to write paeans for Holi. His faithful friend, Hazrat Amir Khushru, he also used to write about Holi. The Pink Festival was celebrated by all of them. The Sufi saints, and I'm sure you all must have at some point of time visited their dargah. Look at the spirit. There is nobody of any religion. Everybody is of the same human race, same humankind. Everybody visits there. You may be aware of the Muslim sisters who recite Gita in the temples of Varanasi. You must have read about the Muslim actors who perform Ram Leela in Ayodhya. It has come in times of India. I have read it myself. In 1981, when I was a young captain posted in Jalandhar, my wife had twin delivery. Unfortunately, both the boys died, but she lost a lot of blood in that delivery. She is O negative. I was not getting this blood because it's a rare group, as you know. My whole battalion lined up outside the military hospital Jalandhar to donate blood. And finally, they got 4 bottles of blood to give to my wife. And do you know who they were? They were 2 Kumaunis, 1 Sikh, and 1 Maratha gentleman. Not a single Muslim. Now, what do you call my wife as? What blood she is carrying? She is carrying blood of Indians. She is carrying blood of humanity. She is carrying blood of human beings. And that's what convinced me that it is humanity which is more important than any religion. At every time that you face difficulties in life, it is human being which will stand by you. One of the most powerful staging of Ram Leela is held where, you know? Can anybody tell me? Most powerful, attractive staging of Ram Leela. It is held in Indonesia and Malaysia. Their artists come to India also to perform. Similarly, if you have heard an airline called Garuda, whose airline is Garuda? Can anybody tell me which country's airline is Garuda? Indonesia. Gentlemen, this is what is humanism. Garuda hai, and what is Garuda? I don't have to tell you. Similarly, the statue of Saraswati is in front of the US Embassy in United States, Indonesian Embassy in United States. The statue of Saraswati. Next time you go to Washington, please have a look at it. This is called tolerance. This is called tolerance. And I'm so glad that you all have organized this wonderful seminar on peace. Unless we have that, human being will perish on their own. Continue fostering peace, and I must congratulate Dr. Karat for the wonderful idea that has started about. This is what his life is all about. Please, for God's sake, promote peace and understanding. And if we do that, the world will be a heavenly place to live in. Thank you very much. I am grateful. Thank you. God bless you.
कृपया सर्वांनी उठून उभं राहून टाळ्यांच्या कडकडाटात आदरणीय ब्रिगेडियर साहेबांचं आपण कौतुक करायचं आहे. एक अतिशय वेगळा दृष्टिकोन आपल्या व्याख्यानातून सरांनी दिला आपल्याला. खूप खूप धन्यवाद. इस्लामकडे पाहण्याचा एक वेगळा दृष्टिकोन, एक सकारात्मक, एक करुणामय दृष्टिकोन सरांच्या व्याख्यानातून आपल्याला मिळालेला आहे. यानंतर या कार्यक्रमाच्या पुढे जाताना यापुढचे वक्ते आपल्याच कुटुंबातील आदरणीय डॉक्टर एस.एन. पठाण सर यांना मी विनंती करतो, कृपया आपण आपला विषय या ठिकाणी मांडावा. आपला विषय आहे सहिष्णू भारत संपन्न जीवन. आदरणीय डॉक्टर पठाण सर.
आदरणीय विश्वधर्मी प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर विश्वनाथ कराड साहेब, आमचे मित्र आदरणीय ब्रिगेडियर सय्यद अहमद अली साहेब, मिलिंदजी पत्रे, या ठिकाणी उपस्थित निमंत्रित आणि प्राध्यापक बंधू आणि भगिनींनो, मला विशेष आनंद यासाठी होतो आहे की माननीय कराड साहेबांचं स्वप्न विश्वशांतीचं त्यांच्या हयातीमध्येच पूर्ण होतं आहे. मित्र, विद्यापीठाचं नाव याला फार महत्त्व आहे आणि म्हणून आपल्या महाराष्ट्रामध्ये एक परंपरा सुरू झाली की विद्यापीठाची नाव बदलली आपण. म्हणजे राजसंत तुकडोजी महाराज नागपूर विद्यापीठ, गाडगे महाराज विद्यापीठ अमरावती, सावित्रीबाई फुले पुणे युनिव्हर्सिटी, शिवाजी विद्यापीठ कोल्हापूर. आणि कराड सरांचं स्वप्न होतं की याचं नाव विश्वशांती विद्यापीठ, भारतातलं पहिलं. आणि विश्वशांतीचा अजेंडा आज मान्य कराड साहेबांनी आपल्या सर्वांच्या पुढे, प्राध्यापकांच्या पुढे, विद्यार्थ्यांच्या पुढे ठेवलेला आहे. आणि म्हणून आज माननीय ब्रिगेडियर साहेब या ठिकाणी झाले. मित्र, याचं कारण असं आहे की हा देशच ऋषीमुनींचा देश आहे. आपण भाग्यवान आहोत. नेहमी कराड साहेब म्हणतात की दुर्लभे भारत जन्म. भारतात जन्म मिळणं हीच दुर्लभ गोष्ट आहे. आपला जन्म या देशामध्ये झाला आणि आपण भाग्यवान आहोत. हा देश ऋषीमुनींचा देश आहे. आता सांगत होते सैयद अली साहेब, हजरत पैगंबर स्वतः असं म्हणाले कि मुझे इंडिया से यानी हिंदुस्तान से मुझे खुशबू आती है की धर्माचा खरा प्रसार हा भारतातून होईल. त्यावेळेला त्यांच्या काळामध्ये 1400 वर्षापूर्वी असा भारत देश आहे. आणि म्हणून या ठिकाणी विश्वशांतीचा हा जो यज्ञ माननीय कराड साहेबांनी मांडला आहे, मी असं म्हणतो कधी कधी की सर तुम्ही 1983ला जेव्हा ह्या विश्वशांती विद्यापीठाचं किंवा याचं बीज रोपटं या MITच्या माध्यमातून लावलं आणि त्या रोपट्याला खतपाणी जे घातलं ते आमचं नॉर्मल पाणी किंवा नॉर्मल फर्टिलायझर नव्हते, ते आध्यात्मिक खत होतं. ते विश्वात्मक विचार मांडणाऱ्या ज्ञानेश्वर माऊलींचं पसायदान होतं. आणि म्हणून हा वृक्ष बहरला आणि त्याला विविध प्रकारची फुलं आली. झाडाला एकाच प्रकारची फुलं येतात, विविध प्रकारची येत नाहीत. पण हे MITत घडलं आणि म्हणून एकीकडे इंजिनिअरिंग कॉलेज, मग मरीन कॉलेज, मग स्कूल ऑफ डिझाईन, मग मेडिकल कॉलेज, मग फिजिओथेरपी, मग डेंटल, म्हणजे काय नाही मित्र, ही ईश्वरीय कार्य आहे. आणि म्हणून मी सुरुवातीला मनापासून आपल्या सर्वांना विनंती करतो, माझ्या व्याख्यानाच्या थोडंसं मी माझे विचार मांडणार आहे, पण की आपणाला हा यज्ञ पुढे चालू ठेवायचा आहे. म्हणजे स्वामी विवेकानंद असं म्हणाले होते की गिव्ह मी फ्यू मेन अँड आय विल चेंज द फेस ऑफ मदर इंडिया. तसं मान्य कराड साहेबांचे विद्यार्थी हे या देशाचा, या भारत मातेचा चेहरा बदलणारे विद्यार्थी असले पाहिजेत. आणि यासाठी शिक्षकाची भूमिका फार महत्त्वाची आहे. म्हणजे आज मी किंवा मान्य कराड साहेब उभे आहोत. आमचे मित्र देवरे साहेब म्हणाले किंवा मी शिक्षण क्षेत्रातील सगळी पदं मिळवू शकलो, पण ते केवळ माझ्या शिक्षकांच्यामुळं. माझे PhD गाईड ब्राह्मण होते, आहेत ते डॉक्टर याल कुलकर्णी, किंवा माझे प्रोफेसर ते जर नसते तर मी उभा राहू शकलो नसतो. आणि म्हणून शिक्षकाचं काम फार महत्त्वाचं आहे. आणि म्हणून हा जो सैयद साहेब म्हणाले की हा सेमिनार आहे, सेमिनार नाही सर, दिस इज द एंडॉमेंट लेक्चर सिरीज, दिस इज द फॅकल्टी डेव्हलपमेंट प्रोग्राम ऑफ दिस इन्स्टिट्यूशन. इथे प्राध्यापक तयार करायचे आहेत विशिष्ट विचाराचे. आणि म्हणून आज आपण विषय घेतला आहे की सविष्ण भारत आणि संपन्न जीवन किंवा संपन्न भारत. मित्रो, हा देश किती सविष्ण आहे. या देशामध्ये जवळजवळ जगातील सर्व धर्माचे लोक राहतात. जवळजवळ 7 धर्माचे लोक इथं राहतात. म्हणजे हिंदू बहुसंख्य आहेत, परंतु इस्लाम आहेत, ख्रिश्चन आहेत, शीख आहेत, पारशी आहेत, जैन आहेत आणि गुण्यागोविंदाने राहत आहेत. मला मान्य आहे की हिंदू आणि मुस्लिमांचे जर काही तणाव सोडले, चुटपुट प्रसंग सोडले, तर या देशामध्ये बाकीच्या धर्मामध्ये आणि हिंदूमध्ये कधी तणाव निर्माण झालेला नाही आहे. मग जैनांची आणि हिंदूंची दंगल झाली का कधी? मला आठवत नाही. किंवा बुद्ध. आणि ही जी दंगल कधी कधी हिंदू आणि मुस्लिमांच्यामध्ये जो तणाव निर्माण होतो, त्याचं मुख्य हे कारण आहे की या 2 धर्मामधील जी उपासनेची पद्धती आहे ती भिन्न आहे. सैयद साहब आपकी अलीगढ़ यूनिवर्सिटी का वो कॉन्वोकेशन में उन्हें दिया हुआ स्पीच है की हिंदू आणि मुस्लिम हे बौद्धिकदृष्ट्या एकत्र येऊ शकले नाही आध्यात्मिक दृष्टीनं. कारण मुस्लिमांच्यामध्ये मूर्तीपूजा नाही आहे, ईश्वर निराकार निर्गुण आहे. वेदांतामध्ये तेच सांगितलं आहे. पण आपण सगुण साकार असल्याशिवाय आपल्याला प्रार्थनाच करता येणार नाही. आणि म्हणून आपण विठ्ठलाचं रूप सगुण ठेवलेलं आहे. सगुण आहे. तिथं बसलं की आपल्याला शेवटी निर्गुण निराकार ईश्वराकडेच जायचं आहे. आणि हा जो बुद्धीमध्ये ह्या दोघांच्या उपासना पद्धतीमध्ये समन्वय न झाल्यामुळे या देशातील मुस्लिमांचं फार मोठं नुकसान झालं आहे. अशा पद्धतीचं अलीगढ मुस्लिम विद्यापीठाच्या कॉन्व्होकेशनमध्ये केलेलं भाषण आहे. याचं कारण असं झालं की सहिष्णुतेचा जो पाठ आहे तो प्रत्येक वेळेला हिंदू धर्माकडून आलेला आहे. मी आपण सांगू इच्छितो की आपल्या देशामध्ये हे मुघल आले, ठीक आहे, म्हणजे सय्यद साहेब जे म्हणाले हजरत पैगंबराच्या काळामध्ये कुणालाही धर्मांतर करावं यासाठी कुठल्याही प्रकारची फोर्स, कुठल्याही प्रकारची सक्ती त्यांनी केलेली नाही आहे. उलट जेव्हा ते मदिनेहून मक्केला आले बादशाह होऊन आणि धर्मगुरू होऊन, तेव्हा लोकांनी सांगितलं त्यांच्या अनुयायांनी की तुम्हाला ज्यांनी त्रास दिला त्यांना मारून टाकू का, कापून टाकू का, मी तुमचे शत्रू आहे सगळे तुमच्या पुढे. ते म्हणले अरे नाही, ते अज्ञानी आहे. म्हणजे मग मला ते आठवतं वाक्य माऊलींचं, हे तर अज्ञानाचे मुळे. अरे ते अज्ञानी आहे, त्यांना माहीत नाही मी ईश्वराचा संदेश घेऊन आलो आहे, त्यांना शिकवा आणि मग सोडून द्या. आणि म्हणून पवित्र कुराणमध्ये इकरा, सिखो पढो, सिखो पढो हा सगळ्यात जास्त वेळा शब्द आलेला आहे. मित्र, मी सांगत होतो की प्रत्येक वेळेला मोगलांनी जरी हिंदूंची मंदिरं फोडली, खरं म्हणजे ते आतंकवादीच होते, त्यांनी हिंदूंची मंदिरं फोडली, तोडली, मूर्ती तोडल्या यासाठी की तिथे पैसे मिळतील त्यांना. कारण आजही आपल्या भारत देशामध्ये हिंदूंची मंदिरं ही पैशाची खाणच आहे, केंद्रच आहे. पण तरीसुद्धा जेव्हा आज आपण अजमेरच्या दर्ग्यावर जातो आणि अजमेरच्या दर्ग्यावर जो काही त्या ठिकाणी आलेला भाविक वर्ग आपण पाहतो, त्या भाविक वर्गामध्ये मला असं वाटतं की मुस्लिमांच्या पेक्षा तिथे हिंदू भाविक जास्त आहे. हा आमचा श्रेष्ठ भारत आहे, हा भारत सविष्ट भारत आहे. भारताने ते मनामध्ये, हिंदूने ते मनामध्ये ठेवलं नाही कधी. आणि म्हणून आज जिथे जिथे, मी आता असं म्हणालो की नुसतं अजमेर शरीफचंच नाही, इव्हन गोव्यामध्ये जे चर्चेस आहेत, आमचा महाराष्ट्रीयन माणूस म्हणा किंवा भारतीय माणूस गोव्याला गेल्यानंतर चर्चला जाऊन आल्याशिवाय त्याची यात्राच पूर्ण होत नाही. हे भारताचं वैशिष्ट्य आहे, हा सविष्ट भारत आहे. आणि म्हणून भारताचा जे आज जगामध्ये जो काय डंका पिटतोय तो यासाठी की 21व्या शतकामध्ये भारत विश्वगुरू होणार आहे. भारताची ही जी सहिष्णुतेची फिलॉसॉफी आहे, आता हे मला मान्य आहे की कधी कधी या आपल्या देशामध्ये हिंदू बहुसंख्याक असल्यामुळं आणि बाकीचे धर्माचे लोक अल्पसंख्याक असल्यामुळं त्यांच्यामध्ये कदाचित भीती वाटणं हे साहजिक आहे. आणि म्हणून हे काय बोलण्यासाठी नाही आहे, पण आपण पाहतो आज की यांचे पॅकेट्स डेव्हलप झालेले, म्हणजे पुण्यामध्ये कोंडवा आहे किंवा मुंबईला मुंब्रा आहे, तिथं लोक राहत आहेत. का राहत आहेत? मी तर कधी मुस्लिम कॉलनीत राहिलो नाही किंवा राहणार नाही. आपण कधी आलं माझ्या घरी तर माझ्या शेजारी एक सुंदर मंदिर बांधलेलं आहे. आणि जेव्हा ते मंदिरचं बांधकाम त्यांनी सुरू केलं तेव्हा त्यांनी माझी परवानगी घ्यायला लागले. तेव्हा मी म्हटलं हो, त्या मंदिराची सर्वात जी काही महत्त्वाची देणगी असेल ती माझ्याकडून दिली जाईल, ह्या अटीवर तुम्हाला मंदिर बांधायची परवानगी आहे. आणि मान्य कराड साहेबांनी तेच केलं. म्हणजे त्यांच्या गावामध्ये जेव्हा त्यांनी मंदिर बांधलं श्रीरामाचं, तेव्हा मुस्लिमांची मशीदसुद्धा झाली पाहिजे हा विचार त्यांच्या मनामध्ये आला. जैनुद्दीन चिश्तीचा दर्गासुद्धा झाला पाहिजे हा मना विचार त्यांच्यामध्ये आला. हा किती महान विचार आहे मानवतेचा. म्हणजे ज्या वेळेला इस्लाम पवित्र कुराणमध्ये असं म्हटलेलं आहे की एका माणसाचा खून करणं म्हणजे मानवतेची हत्या आहे, परंतु आतंकवादी आज जे करतायत, मित्र मला तेच सांगायचं आहे माझ्या भाषणामध्ये होते आणि मी लवकर आटोपतो. याचं कारण असं की आज हे एक समज असा लोकांच्यामध्ये होऊन राहिलेला आहे. जसं आमचे सय्यद साहेब म्हणाले की मुसलमानांनी सुद्धा इस्लामला दाढी, टोपी आणि पायजमा कुर्त्यामध्ये बंद करून टाकलेलं आहे. पैगंबराचे ते अखलाकच त्यांना माहिती नाही, लोकांपर्यंत ते पोहोचले नाही आहे. आणि म्हणून मान्य कराड साहेबांनी सांगितलं की पठाण, आपण दर्शे कुराणचा कार्यक्रम करून टाकूया. पवित्र कुराणमध्ये एवढी महान तत्त्व आहे. मी एक तत्त्व सरांना सांगितलं, म्हणलं काय? ते म्हणले काय तत्त्व? म्हणलं सर एक तत्त्व पहा, आईच्या पायाखाली स्वर्ग आहे आणि वडील म्हणजे बाप जन्नत का दरवाजा आहे. म्हणलं हे मुसलमानांच्यामध्ये इस्लाममध्ये लहानपणापासून मुलांच्यावर बिंबवलं जातं. त्याचा परिणाम काय झाला? म्हणजे मला काय हे करायचं नाही, आत्मप्रौढी सांगायची नाही आहे, पण धर्माचा परिणाम पहा. महाराष्ट्रामध्ये जवळजवळ 13,000 वृद्धाश्रम आहेत, पण एकही मुस्लिम वृद्धाश्रम नाही आहे. एकही मुस्लिम माणूस आपल्या आई वडिलांना वृद्धाश्रमामध्ये पाठवू इच्छित नाही. तो त्याची सेवा करेल हे धर्मानं सांगितलेलं आहे. तर मान्य करार साहेब म्हणाले, मारे एवढं पवित्र तत्व असताना हा लोकांना धर्मच कळला नाही आहे, मग आतंकवादी कशी निर्माण झाले? आणि म्हणून आम्ही रामेश्वरीला दर्शे कुराण हा भारतामध्ये पहिला प्रकार आहे की एका हिंदू माणसाने किंवा ह्या एका हिंदू संस्थेने म्हणा, आपल्या या ट्रस्टने दर्शे कुराणचा अर्थ काय हा कार्यक्रम घेतला आणि आपण 100 कुराण हे मुस्लिम माणसांना वाटले MITने, विश्वशांती केंद्रानं. मित्र, अशी परंपरा किंवा असा हा देश आहे, असा हा महान देश आहे. आणि म्हणून मी सांगत होतो की यांच्यामध्ये जे काही आज होऊन राहिलेलं आहे इस्लामिक देशामध्ये, किंवा आपण खूप सहन केलं आपल्या देशामध्ये, आजही करतो आहे. जरी आज आपण 370 कलम रद्द केलं असलं तरी काश्मीर अजून असं हे शांत नाही आहे. पंडितांची हत्या होतच आहे. अनेक गोष्टी करायच्यात आपल्याला अजून. म्हणजे मला मान्य सय्यद साहेबांनी अनेक चांगल्या गोष्टी त्यामध्ये दाखवून दिल्या. अजूनही हिंदू लॉमध्ये स्त्रियांना आपल्या नवऱ्याला डायव्हर्स देता येत नाही, पुरुष देतो. पवित्र कुराणमध्ये ती परवानगी आहे की तुम्ही आपल्या पुरुषाला डायव्हर्स द्या. त्याला खुला म्हणतात, तलाक नाही, खुला असू द्या. पण तरीसुद्धा मी या मताचा आहे की आपण या देशात राहतो आणि मी या व्यासपीठावरून आज मागणी करतो एक मुस्लिम नागरिक म्हणून की या देशामध्ये सुद्धा आम्ही जर वन नेशन आणि वन सिटिझन जर असेल तर मुस्लिमांना सुद्धा समान नागरिक कायदा हा लागूच झाला पाहिजे. काही हे करायचं कारण नाही आहे. समान नागरिक कायदा काय वाईट आहे? म्हणजे मी मागं असं म्हणालो होतो की म्हणजे 3 तलाक हे करणं स्त्रियांची गुलामगिरीच आहे. आणि पैगंबरांनी याला मान्यता दिलेली नाही पवित्र कुराणमध्ये. याला तलाक बिदअत म्हणतात. लोकांना असं वाटलं की पवित्र कुराणमध्ये 3 तलाक आहे, तोंडी तलाक. अजिबात नाही आहे. पवित्र कुराणप्रमाणे तलाक देणंच अवघड आहे. त्या स्त्रीला तुम्ही देऊ शकत नाही तलाक. तर तलाक देण्यापूर्वी तिच्याबरोबर 1 महिना एका खोलीत राहायचं आहे. आणि म्हणून मी सांगत होतो की आज ह्या देशामध्ये जे हिंदू मुस्लिम ऐक्यांचं ते एक पर्व सुरू झालेलं आहे मान्य कराड साहेबांनी विश्वशांतीच्या माध्यमातून किंवा इंटरफेथ डायलॉग हे जे सुरू केलेलं आहे याची या देशाला फार मोठी गरज आहे. कारण जर आपल्या देशामध्ये जर विविध जातीमध्ये असंतोष असेल, आपण जर एकत्र नसू आणि आपली जर ताकद अशी विभागून जाणार असेल तर मग आपल्याला मात्र महासत्ता सोडा पण विश्वगुरू कसं बनता येईल. आणि म्हणून स्वामी विवेकानंद असं म्हणाले होते की राहू द्या सगळे धर्म, ते एकाच ईश्वराने निर्माण केलेले आहे, शेवटी सगळे ते ईश्वराकडे येणार आहेत, त्या सगळ्यांना त्या समुद्राला मिळतात. तुमच्या हातात कोणती पताका आहे, निळी आहे का हिरवी आहे का भगवी, हे महत्त्वाचं नाही आहे. एकत्र या, वाटल्यास ती पताका घेऊन एकत्र या आणि आपण एक मानवतेचा पूल उभारूया, प्रेमाचा, जो मान्य कराड साहेबांनी श्री राम रहीम सेतू उभारला आहे. तो कधी कधी कराड साहेबांचं काम आपल्याला लक्षात येत नाही, कारण मी त्यांची स्तुती करत नाही बरं का, कारण त्यांना आवडत नाही ती, मला मान्य आहे. आपण त्यांच्यावर राहतो त्यामुळे त्यांचं काम लक्षात येत नाही. पण श्री राम रहीम मानवता सेतू बांधणं ह्या 2 विचाराला जोडणारा हा किती महान विचार आहे. आणि हे केवळ सहिष्णु भारतामुळे झालेलं आहे. आपल्याला तो तरुण तुर्क संवाद एकनाथ महाराजांनी जो लिहिलेला आहे तो माहिती असेल, कारण एकनाथ महाराजांचे गुरु हे जनार्दन स्वामी, आणि जनार्दन स्वामींचे गुरु चांद बोधले हे मुस्लिम होते. आणि म्हणून मी असं म्हणतो की MIT हे विद्यापीठ जे सुरू झालं त्याला वारकरी संत ज्ञानेश्वर माऊली आणि तुकाराम महाराज यांचे विचार आणि स्वामी विवेकानंदांचं तत्त्वज्ञान याच्यावर हा संपूर्ण पाया उभा आहे. आपण भाग्यवान आहोत की माननीय कराड साहेबांनी हा वारकरी संत म्हणजे ज्ञानेश्वर माऊलींचा विचार घेतलेला आहे. काय ज्ञानेश्वर माऊलींचा विचार आहे. ज्या वेळेला हा संपूर्ण समाज जातीपातीमुळे दुभंगून गेला होता, सत्व विसरून गेला होता, आत्मविश्वास संपून गेला होता, बाबासाहेबांना 5 वर्ष राम मंदिरामध्ये येऊ दिलं नाही, काठ्या खाल्ल्या, आणि माऊलींना तरी किती छळलो. माऊलींच्या आईवडिलांना आत्मसमर्पण करावं लागलं. त्या माऊलींनी विश्वात्मक विचार मांडला आणि तुकाराम महाराज म्हणाले की विष्णुमय जग वैष्णवाचा धर्म, भेदाभेद ब्रह्म अमंगळ, आणि म्हणून मुस्लिम संत तयार झाले. शेख महाराज, शेख मोहम्मद महाराज हे श्रीगोंद्याचे, हे आपली दिंडी घेऊन पांडुरंगाला निघाले, विठ्ठलाला निघाले. काय महाराष्ट्र आहे, काय सहिष्णुता आहे. अगदी अलीकडील संत जैतूनबी, त्यांचा आळंदीला आश्रम आहे जैतूनबीचा, एक महिला मुस्लिम संत. आणि म्हणून मित्र मी असं एवढंच म्हणेल की आपण हा जो मान्य कराड साहेबांनी विश्वशांतीचा जो संदेश घेतला, आपले विद्यार्थी आपल्याला उत्तम सर्वोत्तम करायचे. टेक्नॉलॉजीमध्ये, त्यांच्या शास्त्रामध्ये तर त्यांना नंबर 1 शिक्षण द्यायचं आहेच, पण आपला माइंडसेट जर चुकीचा असेल तर मग इमारत उभी राहणार नाही नीट. आणि म्हणून सर्वांना घेऊन पुढे जायचं आहे आपल्याला, मानवतेचं काम करायचं. मान्य कराड साहेबांनी जो डोम बांधलेला आहे, मी त्यांना सांगत होतो सय्यद साहेबांना की 54 पुतळे आहेत तिथे आणि इस्लाममध्ये पुतळा नाही. मग काय केलं तर त्यांनी बाबा बुल्ले शाह, एक संत जसे तुकाराम महाराजसारखे दिसतात त्यांचे विचार, ते त्यांचं पुस्तक आहे माझ्याकडे, बाबा बुल्ले शाह, ते बाबा बुल्ले शाहांचा पुतळा तिथं बसवलेला आहे. हा जो महान विचार आहे याचे आपण पाईक आहोत आणि त्याचीही व्याख्यान मला होते, याच्याबद्दल मला मनस्वी आनंद होतो आहे. आणि मी शेवटी एकच म्हणेल की राष्ट्रसंत तुकडोजी महाराज ज्याप्रमाणे म्हणाले, आपल्याला माहिती असेल या संतांनी एवढं मोठं काम केलेलं आहे. राष्ट्रसंत तुकडोजी महाराज एक संत आहे, त्यांनी सुलेमान पठाण गुरुजी यांच्या हस्ते गणपतीची प्रतिष्ठापना केलेली आहे अमरावतीमध्ये. लोकांनी खूप टीका केली, ते म्हणले मला चालेल. आणि राष्ट्रसंतांनी सामुदायिक प्रार्थनेनंतर मुस्लिमांना सांगितलं की अजून तुमची नमाज तुम्हाला करायची असेल तर करा, स्टेज अवेलेबल आहे. मी संपवतो. आणि म्हणून मित्र मी एवढंच म्हणेल शेवटी की आपल्याला शेवटी पाकिस्तानची या देशाची जी फाळणी झाली अनैसर्गिक आणि सांप्रदायिक सद्भावाच्या ठिकऱ्या उडाल्या आणि लोक ती जखम अजून विसरलेली नाही आहे. पण ती पिढी आता जवळजवळ संपत चाललेली आहे. आता तरुण पिढी आली, नवीन पिढी आलेली आहे. आता आपण हा देश पुन्हा घडवूया. आपण एकत्र येऊया सर्व जाती जमातीचे लोक. आपण विसरूया धर्माधर्मामधलं हे अंतर, कारण शेवटी सगळं एकच आहे. लकीरे है तो रहने दो, किसी पागल ने खींची थी, गुलजार म्हणतात. आओ इसे हम बनाए पाला और खेले कबड्डी. ब्राह्मण नाही, हिंदूही नाही, नमी एक पंथाचा, तेच पतीत की जे अखंड ती प्रदेश साकल्याचा. आणि मी शेवट एका ह्या केशवसुतांच्या कवितेने माझा भाषणाचा शेवट करतो. त्यापूर्वी मी असं म्हणेल की हिंदू बांधवांनी जी काही सहिष्णुता आहे देशामध्ये दाखवली आणि म्हणून हा देश उभा आहे. आता पाळी आहे मुस्लिम बांधवांची. त्यांनीही सहिष्णुता आता सुरू करायला पाहिजे. ती विश्वशांती विद्यापीठातूनच होईल, ती आमचेच मुलं करतील. आपल्या महाविद्यालयामध्ये शिकणाऱ्या मुसलमान विद्यार्थ्यांनी सुद्धा या अतिरेक्यांचा निषेध केला पाहिजे. त्यांच्या विरुद्ध मोर्चा काढला पाहिजे की हे इस्लाम खतरे में म्हणतात, पण हे मुसलमानांना सुद्धा मारून टाकतात. अफगाणिस्तानमध्ये काय आज इस्लामिक देशामध्ये ते काय फक्त परत धर्मीयाच्या बाबतीत नाही आहे, ते आपल्या देशातल्या लोकांना, आपल्याच धर्माच्या लोकांना मारून टाकतायत. आणि केवळ त्यांचा चेहरा जरी अतिरेकी असला तरी त्याच्या पाठीमागे अनेक बहुमुखी राक्षस आहे. मग त्याच्यामध्ये ते ड्रग्ज आहे, त्यामध्ये शस्त्रांचा काळा बाजार आहे, त्यामध्ये सत्ता हस्तगत करायची वाटेल ते करून. आणि म्हणून हे आपण समजून घेतलं पाहिजे. आणि केवळ मुसलमान अतिरेकी म्हणून आपल्या देशातल्या मुसलमानांचा आपल्याला संताप किंवा द्वेष करून चालणार नाही. ते आपले बांधव आहेत, त्यांनासुद्धा ह्या देशाच्या निर्माणमध्ये त्यांना सामावून घ्यायचं आहे. एवढी मी शेवटी आपणाला अपील करतो. आणि अरे हिंदू मुसलमान प्राण देशावरी कुर्बान, परी यादवी की लांछन, अल्ला रामा, बोला अल्लाह है राम, करा पैगंबरा प्रणाम, आहे तुम्हा आम्हा हराम, बंधू द्वेष. भारत माता की जय. थँक्यू व्हेरी मच.
खूप खूप धन्यवाद पठाण सर. सहिष्णू भारताची संकल्पना आणि सर्वधर्म समभाव, समान नागरी कायदा अशा अनेक विषयांवरती स्पर्श करत सरांनी अतिशय सुंदरपणे आपले विचार या ठिकाणी प्रगट केले आणि आपल्या मनामध्ये, शिक्षकांच्या मनामध्ये एक नवा विश्वास त्यांनी जागृत केला. सर आपले खूप खूप धन्यवाद. यानंतर कार्यक्रमाच्या समारोपाकडे जाताना मी आदरणीय मिलिंद पत्रे सरांना विनंती करतो, कृपया आपण इथे सर्वांचे आभार मानावेत. आदरणीय पत्रे सर.
हॅलो.
कि Sindh, Muhammad bin Qasim was invited to India. That is true. But the king of Sindh who invited him, what did he do to him? He treacherously killed him. He carried his wife and daughters to Arabia to present to the man in power. And also his men carried some other women who were sold in slave market. So how would you explain that? Second question is, while I am... Only one. Huh? Only one question. Okay. Please.
Treachery cannot be ever absolved or condoned. If I am treacherous to my benefactor, then I deserve a punishment. What he did to his wife and daughters can at least be condemned and denounced, rather than saying that yes, he was a winner or he deserved that. No, sir. If you have done a good deed to me, I shall be always obliged to you rather than being treacherous to you. What he did after the winning was treachery and nothing else.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर. थैंक यू सो मच. अच्छा, एक सवाल. आदरणीय कर्नल तांदळे जी, आपका स्वागत है. प्लीज.
Thank you. I'm not allowed.
Yes sir, yes sir. Thank you. So it was such a grand inauguration today for the 27th. Inaugural session was yesterday, but today again we began with the orientation program. So it was a grand inauguration and we got tremendous guests today. In the morning we have got Dr. Bhavartha Dekhneji. He talked on the Sant literature. It was a spellbounding session, and being a very educated person also, but he talked very lucidly about the messages in the Dnyaneshwari, Bhagavad Gita, Vadkari Sampradaya. So it was such a beautiful session. So I thank him for the morning session. In this session, we got Honorable Brigadier Syed Ahmed Ali Ji, ex-Pro Vice Chancellor, Aligarh Muslim University. And in his 40-45 minutes, purely academic session, he conveyed what Islam is and what Islam is not. And what he said, the crowning glory of the session was, it is Islam versus Muslim, in a way. So that spelled everything what he conveyed, and it was such a beautiful session. Thank you so much, sir, for coming. Revered Professor Dr. Karad, sir, always blesses us with his divine light and wisdom. Thank you so much, sir. And our own Dr. S.N. Pathan, sir, former Vice Chancellor of Nagpur University. We have known each other since last 20 plus years, and before joining MIT also we were having sessions each other. So thank you so much, sir, for such a wonderful, and when Pathan sir speaks, it doesn't feel that some Islamic scholar is teaching. He is a blend of all the Hindu plus Muslim together, and when he said it, it was really a courageous statement that yes, even Muslim also should come forward in denouncing when it is a wrong. They should come and speak that yes, it is wrong. A very courageous approach. Thank you so much, Answer, for this. And this morning session. In the afternoon, we have got a very important session. It's beginning at 4 o'clock. We have, it's beginning at 4 o'clock. And the Higher Education Minister of Government of Maharashtra, Chandrakant Dada Patil, will be blessing us. And he will be addressing as a keynote speaker on National Education Policy 2020, Rashtriya Shiksha Niti. So all of you are requested to be here sharp at 3.55 hours here, for that session. And to conclude, please. Thank you so much.
धन्यवाद सर. या कार्यक्रमाचा शेवट हा पसायदानाने आपण करणार आहोत. आपण सर्वांनी उठून उभं राहून पसायदान म्हणायचे आणि मग कार्यक्रम संपन्न होईल.